Good morning. It's good to see all of you in church this morning and celebrating our divine liturgy. I'm grateful that you're all here. I know that we're still kind of going Sunday by Sunday, hoping and praying that sooner than later we'll all be as a church able to come and worship together. But you're all here and we're grateful. And to those of you that are tuning in live, whether it be on our social media platforms, our St. on the Divine app, or even on our website, we just want you to know how grateful we are that you're part of our virtual family and that you're here worshiping with us. So thanks so much for being here. And just want to kind of give you a real quick announcement before I begin a brand new sermon series. And that is that this Tuesday, we are very blessed and honored to have on our Healthy Minds, Healthy Souls internet radio show, the president and COO of Chick-fil-A. And I don't know about all of you parents, but if you're like me, we frequent Chick-fil-A often and all the time, especially during the week when the kids are at different practices or at different schools. So the president of Chick-fil-A is going to be with us on our show. His name is Tim Tassopoulos, an extraordinary man of faith. This is one show. I will tell you, if you haven't listened to our shows yet, this is one that you want to listen to. He's actually also, we're very blessed to have him as one of the endorsers for our new book that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And if you happen to be listening to this sermon, if you're downloading this sermon after Tuesday, we just encourage you that you can find all of our podcasts of that show by simply going to our website at thelows.com. So today we're beginning a brand new 4-part sermon series. I hope it's an encouraging sermon series for all of you. And we're talking about finding peace in polarizing times. You know, for many of us, you may not realize this, but the stress that we are all experiencing, or that you may experience at one point in one day, can impact your life 6 months after that event. And for all of us over the last 8 months, we've been dealing with a lot of stress. I oftentimes tell people we run the risk of having a pandemic of stress after this pandemic of the coronavirus. And so today and over the next several weeks, I just want to give you encouraging messages that how do we manage and deal with the stress? How do we find peace in polarizing times? And today I want to kick it off by talking to you about finding peace by living within your capacity. Every day, our amazing God equips us with energy, endurance, and ability to fulfill certain tasks during the day. It is our capacity that we have during the day. But for many of us, if we're totally honest with ourselves, we're being tossed and turned, we're being pushed and pulled in a million different directions. In fact, if our life was like this cup, and our responsibilities was like all this water, if I was to pour all this water in this cup with all of the things that we have to do on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis, for many of you, you would say that my life, my cup is running over. I've just got so many things on my plate. Let me show you how. Recently, there was a study that came out that found that pre-COVID, pre-coronavirus, the average work week, listen to this, was around 45 to 48 hours per week. Now, some of you may have had more than that, but 45 to 48 hours a week. Over the last 8 months, it has shifted from 51 to 55 hours during the week. Why is that, Father Nick? Glad you asked. Because for many of us, we're working from home. And there's no separation between our home life and our work life. And you're seeing already the impact of that stress. There's been a 30% increase in phone calls to lawyers seeking a divorce during the coronavirus. There's been a 32% increase in substance and alcohol abuse during the coronavirus. What's my point? For many of us, we are living outside of our capacity. Our cup is running over. And this is the encouraging principle statement I want for all of you to hear this morning. Living outside of your capacity will cause you to live in captivity. Living outside of your daily God-given capacity will cause you to live in captivity. You're going to be a prison to exhaustion, a prison to frustration, a prisoner to anger, a prisoner to impatience. And if you're checking any of those boxes, let me tell you something, church family, you're living outside of your capacity. In the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel, there's a message that is totally appropriate to what we're talking about today. You can go back and read about it, but it's found in Daniel chapter 5. And there's this guy named King Belshazzar who's having this banquet, this event. And he's asking all of his people to go and bring all the gold that King Nebuchadnezzar stole from the temple in Jerusalem. And as they were bringing all this gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had stolen, the people began to fall down and worship gold, the god of gold. As they're worshiping, one of the most extraordinary stories in the entire Bible, a hand, listen to this, a hand comes out and begins to write on the wall. No body, just simply a hand. You can read about it in Daniel chapter 5. And writes this statement, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Can you all say that with me? Mene, Mene. Say it with me now. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. After that, the hand went back. The people were in shock. That King Belshazzar, it says that his knees were knocking because of fear. Could you imagine? Just imagine the story. You're at an event and a hand with no body attached to it starts writing on a wall. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. And long story short, that verse, that Mene, Tekel, Parsin, it literally means your days are numbered. You are being weighed down by the wrong things. Your days are numbered. And just so you all know, that phrase, the handwriting is on the wall, comes from Daniel chapter 5, with him just simply writing, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. My days are numbered. Church family, the handwriting is on the wall of your heart and my heart. Our days are numbered. And if you'll be so, just let your ears listen to this, that for many of us, whatever we think we have a lot of, we tend to waste. And whatever we think we have a little of, we tend to conserve. We cherish it. I'm writing on the wall of your heart, your days are numbered. So let me give you 3 keys that I want to encourage you that could help us to live not in captivity, but to live within our God-given capacity. Number 1 is this. I want you to always remember that God matters first. It's interesting, in the life of Christ, he would oftentimes, in his ministry and in his work, take a break. He would literally go off and pray. Countless times throughout the Bible, Christ is showing to us, who is the God that does not need a break, but showing us the importance of taking a break, would take a break. He would literally go off and pray. That's why the Garden of Gethsemane is so important, is because not only is of its significance biblically and towards the last week of Christ's life, but it was the place, it was the refuge where Christ would take time to pray. And one of the 12 commandments, one of the 10 commandments says that we are to honor the Sabbath day. And all of you church family, I'm so grateful that you're here worshiping with us this morning. And those who are tuning in online, we're grateful that you're here with us. But what would it look like if you didn't simply have a Sabbath hour, but a Sabbath day? Where you took time today, not to leave this church or to turn off your computer and to begin to do your to-do list for the rest of the week, but that you would simply honor the Sabbath day. What would it look like if you just took the next 30 minutes when you leave here today and you just said, God, I need to get closer to you. My wife needs to get closer to you. My children need to get closer to you. Help me lead them. What would it look like today if you simply just took a walk and didn't have any music on, weren't talking to anybody, but simply just took time to say, God, I'm just admiring this beauty? What would it look like if you simply honored not an hour on the Sabbath, but honored the day? Christ is commanding us, honor the Sabbath day. Here's number 2. I think another key that we can use to unlock that captivity that all of us can experience, especially during these polarizing times, is that relationships matter. I've been the parish priest of this community for 13 years. And when you're a priest of a church, you're at people's most exciting times. You're there to celebrate a baptism, a wedding, when someone gets engaged or someone graduates, or when someone calls you like someone did this past week and says, Father, I just got an A on a test that I've been struggling with, a class that I've been just dealing with, a difficult class. But you're also there at the darkest moments in people's lives. And I can tell you that being at the deathbed of many, many people, many of your family members, dare I say, that when someone is on their deathbed, when they see death before them, they're not saying, Father, I just wish I could go back to work to answer that last email. I just wish I could answer that phone call or post this final message on Facebook of my status. No, relationships matter. And what I want to encourage all of you is that you will always have your work. You'll always have responsibilities to do. Dare I say, you'll always have work even in the church. But you will not always have your family. You will not always have your friends. What would it look like in your life if tomorrow night you said, I want to take my daughter for a walk? What would it look like if I said, I want to take my son for a walk or on a bike ride? What would it look like if you spent time with your wife and said, honey, I know we've been married for 40 years, but how could I love you better? How can I care for you better? What would it look like if you told your husband, I am so proud of you. I know we have our differences. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but what would it look like if I just told my husband, I'm so proud of the man you are? Relationships matter. And here's the third key. God matters, unlock. Relationships matter. That handwriting is on the wall. Number 3 is this. Your purpose matters. We live in a world that wants you, even during this coronavirus, that wants to make us think that it's all about us. That is the most anti-Christian philosophy you could have. It isn't about you. It is about Him. St. Paul in the book of Acts, write this verse down, and if you're unable to, go back and listen to this or just memorize it. It's a refrigerator verse. Acts 20, verse 24. St. Paul says, I don't care about my life, but all I care about is fulfilling, listen to this, my assignment for the day to share the good news of Christ. Ask yourself, am I sharing the good news with anybody? Like, have I verbally talked about what Christ means to me in the last week? Have I told people why I'm involved in this church or why God has been working in my life? You have a purpose, an assignment. And if you don't fill it with God, the devil will let you fill it with him. And for many of us, church family, and I say this respectfully, those of you here, those of you that are tuning in, and for sure our society, we are living in a world where the devil has convinced us that it is all about us. And for many of you, you're wondering why you're still in captivity. You're burnt out, you're stressed. And dare I say that maybe we need to remember our purpose. I'll leave you with this. I love giving illustrations, and I love trying to just kind of encourage all of you. And there's one illustration that I've loved sharing over the years. It never gets old. And so I just want y'all to kind of bear with me a little bit. This container is filled with a whole bunch of different pebbles. You can see all these pebbles. These represent all the things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. It's our emails that we have to answer, the 100 text messages we get on a day-to-day basis, the phone calls we have to respond to, the events that we have to take care of, the parents or helping your children with their homework during this coronavirus. All of these things we have to deal with. For many of us, this container represents your life. Each of these rocks, though, I want to imagine for a moment that they represent those keys that can unlock your captivity. The key first, that God matters. That our family and our relationships matter. And that our purpose matters. As you can tell, it doesn't all fit. When we live outside of our capacity, something suffers. It's either our relationship with God, our relationship with our family, or our purpose. But the flip side is also true. If you have and you remember that first things are first, that number one, God matters. And I put Him first in my life. That my relationships, they matter. I don't need to live so much trying to make a living. I need to make a life for my family. And if I remember, my purpose matters. If I do that first, look at what happens. No matter what responsibilities I have, no matter what emails, messages that I have to answer, emails or phone calls, no matter where I'm being tossed and turned, pushed and pulled, if I have first things first, I can handle it. And I want you to remember that the order of your life will determine the capacity to be successful in your life. And as we leave here this morning, my encouragement for all of you is to unlock. You have the key to unlock by making God number one. Take advantage of the Sabbath to stop. Number two is that you make sure that your relationships matter. No one on their deathbed ever yearned to spend more time reading an email. And then number three is that you remember you have a purpose. I am given an assignment to share the message of Christ. That we go out living within our capacity so that we're not living in captivity. Why? Because for you and me, the handwriting is on the wall. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.